30 seconds to put your question.
Minister, just to ask you please, and I hope you don't fob me off with saying this is private property and there's nothing we can do about it. If the De La Salle school, which is due to close at the end of this summer, probably closed already, could be established, that's in Dublin 10 and Ballyfermot. It's quite a famous school, you see it on lots of movies, on the Rocky Road to Dublin, etc. Absolutely massive complex with massive amount of lands. If we could look at having a discussion to establish it as an Educate Together stroke Gael Scoil for the area. There is absolutely no Educate Together facilities in Dublin 10 and no Gael Scoil.
Minister.
Yeah, in relation to the school property which the Deputy refers, the school patron has informed my department that the school currently operating at this property will close on the 30th of June 2019, when the last group of pupils will have completed 6th class. The school patron has been working with 4 Catholic schools under its patronage in Ballyfermot in relation to reorganising these schools. I understand that the outcome of this interaction undertaken by the patron is that 3 of the 4 schools, other than the school referred to by the Deputy, which is a senior boys primary school, have changed to co-educational status following consultation with their parents, staff and boards of management. In relation to the Deputy's query as to whether the school under a different patron body will be established at the school property, there are no plans for this. The property is not in my ownership, nor according to the Department's records does my Department hold any other legal interest, such as a charging lease, over the property. In that context, the plans for the property are a matter for the school trustees as owner, and it is my understanding that it is their intention to sell the property in question.
Thank you very much, Minister. Deputy, 1 minute.
Well, I do know, and I thought it was closing this September, it's closing next June, with the last class being seen off, but I do know that the remaining children were taken in to the Dominican campus in St Michael's and the entire Dominican campus, where there's 3 other schools, and that's all very fine, but all of those 3 schools are packed now, as is St Ultan's and Cherry Orchard. And if there's one thing the area has going for it, is that it is an area where some houses, social houses, are being built, and probably one of the few areas in Dublin where social houses are being built, which means there's going to be much more children coming into the area and a big requirement for education. However, the point about this question and really this, I suppose, proposal is to say that that school should not be sold off because it is belonging to a religious order who are indebted to this state because of the redress deal that was done under Dr Michael Woods, and are indebted to the people of Ballyfermot, Cherry Orchard and Dublin 10 generally, and therefore that school should be either sold back to the Department at a reduced rate or taken on by the Department for a facility of Educate Together and or Gael Scoil, neither of which exist at all in that very, very heavily populated area.
You will have a final minute. Minister, 1 minute.
Yeah, I suppose there's 2 parts to the Deputy's question. One is, does the Department envisage a need for an additional school there? And what I'm told is that while there is some house building and there is some accommodation, expected increase in enrolments, there is a significant capacity in a number of the existing primary schools in the area. And the outcome of the demographic exercises indicate a surplus of available accommodation over the next 4 years across the school planning area. So this wasn't an area where the Department identified the need for an additional school. Obviously, the issue of diversification, we have 2 initiatives in place. One is the divestment procedure that existed, that was established by Deputy Rory Quinn, and the other is the live transfer, which we've just initiated. But in neither case do we have a prospect here of an offer being made of property to an incoming new patron. On the issue of paying redress, I fully agree with you that we do need to see additional payment from the religious orders. The indemnity arrangement that you mentioned limited their amount that they contributed, but it has always been the government's view that 50% of the cost should be contributed by the orders, and we would welcome contribution from the sale of sites or otherwise towards the towards the enormous cost that has been incurred in this area.
Final comment, Deputy Smith.
Well, I think it's clear that although you believe in divestment and believe there should be a 50-50 share, the government is prepared to do very little to insist that that happens, because we've moved on, Taoiseach, and Minister, and recently the Taoiseach did say that he is in favour of the separation of church and state, and I'm not asking for that here today. What I am asking for is the Department to investigate the possibility of negotiating with the De La Salle Trust the acquisition of that very important site for use by the community of Dublin 10 and its environs for both the Gael Scoil and an Educate Together facility, neither of which exist in that vastly populated area. And what you're being told about significant capacity in the other schools is wrong. What you're being told is just not true. I know from talking to the principals and the teachers and the parents that the other schools are bursting to capacity and will fill up even more when this new build is completed throughout Ballyfermot. So we do need a definitive approach from you as Minister for Education to all of these lands and facilities that are in the possession of the church that have a big debt to the state, and it can't be just, I don't believe it's going to happen. I think you have to be much more proactive to make sure it does happen.
Final comment, Minister.
No, the situation is that the Department has never acquired new buildings where it already has existing capacity, and that the suggestion that the Deputy is making, that the Department's demographic process, which is applied equally based on the very best information both from local authorities and from information from Department of Social Protection, Census and so on, that is applied evenly and equitably to all areas. And where it is identified that a new school, and there are 42 of them recently announced, they are the schools that we seek to establish. I have a separate process of seeking to transfer of patronage. That is now, there is a survey going on in all 16 ETBs at present to establish locations where we could seek to have a transfer of patronage with a school, a live transfer as it's described, not requiring closure and a transfer of property, which has unfortunately made the Rory Quinn approach difficult. The truth is that in the vast majority of the cases where we have been able to open a school under that previous process, they have been in other state property. They have not been in properties released by the majority patron. So that system hasn't been successful, obviously because of various legal constraints, of course, that operate.